Alright, how's everyone doing today? I'm going to be doing a book review, but first, this is Starfire. A snake that I thought was getting pretty good about not biting people. She hasn't bit me in a couple days. Now, granted, I just changed her cage. I changed her to a different cage, so she's been a little moody since I changed her to a different cage, but she'd gotten to the point where I could reach in, pick her up. She wouldn't bite me. I just took her out to film this video, and she bit me in the hand. You probably can't see. Maybe a little bit. And I've been bit by 2 snakes, maybe? Past, 2 days? 3 days? Yeah, 2 snakes past 3 days alone. I keep getting bit. But you gotta love them. Look at them. They're sweet. Look at that little face. You can't stay mad at that face. You're a good girl. Don't bite my face. Alright. So, we're gonna do a book review. I'll show this off. This is a blanket that my wife knitted together. Is that the knit? Yeah, knit. She knitted. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna try not to do any fast motions really in front of her because she'll probably strike at it. Get her out of striking position. There we go. So the book that we're going to be reviewing is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. I'll be honest, this was actually a pretty good book. I don't agree necessarily with everything that Stephen Hawking, with everything he says or all his theories and everything. But regardless, it was a fun, interesting read. Lots of wacky space concepts, which I love. I love astronomy. Yeah, but it was a strange book. It was good. A little hard to understand at points. I found myself Googling stuff. I'm no physicist, and apparently this guy's a genius, so I'm also no genius. But it was a good book. I have a couple notes, a couple things we'll touch on. Yeah, I think we'll let Starfire just chill a moment. You calming down? Do you feel bad for biting me? I just wanted you to be featured in the video. You didn't have to bite me. You better not bite when you're big. Alright. I got our book. Again, A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking. I think this is the 10th anniversary edition, so this is an expanded edition with an extra chapter, all that, new introduction. Never read the original edition, but maybe someday I'll reread it and I'll order the original edition. I'm gonna donate this one, probably just give it to Goodwill or something. I got it on Amazon for $5. That's how I tend to get a lot of my books nowadays, instead of Barnes and Noble's is expensive there. So yeah, we'll just go through some of my notes. So, ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare her. Look at she's all defensed up for a minute there. You'll crawl near my face. No more biting, okay? No more biting. No more biting. Thank you. All right. So, I kind of have some notes just by chapters and stuff, but we won't go through that. So, concept of time has no meaning before the beginning of the universe. I thought this was very interesting. So if you think about it, when the universe began, or before the universe began, there was no concept of time. Time did not exist. Time started when the universe started. So before the universe, before existence, there was no time. There was no reason to keep time, obviously, because we weren't here yet. God didn't put us here yet. But there was no time at all in the universe. None whatsoever. Time did not exist. Time was not a concept that was, yeah, I see you eyeballing my hand. Time was not a concept that had been created yet. There was no purpose for it, too. So yeah, time has no meaning before the beginning of the universe. Therefore, time isn't infinite, but finite. So, time isn't actually infinite. Time doesn't have no beginning or no end. Time has a beginning, time has an end. And part of the consequence of this, fact, um, and what I believe at least this partly means, it's mentioned in the book too. So, Saint Augustine said, Time was a property of the universe that God created, and that time did not exist before the beginning of the universe. Um, so, that was his reply when he was asked what God did before creating heaven and hell. He said that time is just a concept of the universe. So that means God doesn't have, he doesn't subscribe to the concept of time. God is not uh, impacted by time. He is beyond time. He's omnipotent. He doesn't have any. Time doesn't really affect him. And that is just. He concluded that in his book because, the concept of time, and St. Augustine had said it best. And me, as a religious person, I find what he said very interesting. That God doesn't subscribe to the concept of time, therefore, the question, what did he do before he created heaven and hell, really doesn't have any significance. Because before the universe, there was no time. So the universe is constantly expanding, and galaxies are moving away from each other at, rapid speed. And so, I think the further the galaxy is, the faster it accelerates from our galaxy. So, if you kind of think of a balloon, you start off with a small balloon before it's blown up. You put dots on that balloon, right? And then watch it expand. That's kind of how the galaxy works. The galaxies, or not the galaxy, but the universe as a whole. Each little dot on that balloon could represent galaxies, and they're just constantly expanding further away from each other when you blow up that balloon. That's a pretty neat concept. This is just the beginner concept, so I'm on chapter 1. I'm not going to make this video that long. My last video, which was on Genesis, ended up being an hour long. We're only going to make this one 20 minutes, hopefully, tops. So in the beginning of the universe, objects were close together, very dense. So they believe for the Big Bang, that the universe was infinitely dense, and then when it exploded, everything started moving away from each other. Yeah, it's a unique concept too. The Big Bang. There's a couple different theories on how the universe started, or even if it started, which we will get into in this. So, the goal of science, or especially astronomy, and physics, is to provide a single theory that describes the universe. They don't have a single theory right now. They have multiple different theories that they can put together, and each theory will have slight contradictions from the other ones. But there's no single theory that is complete. I have a complete theory. I don't think Stephen Hawking would agree with my theory. My theory is God. God did it. God doesn't have to have everything be perfect. He can change things. There doesn't have to be a set of rules that have to be followed with God. He can just do what he pleases. So that would explain why they can't find a theory that explains everything accurately. Because God did it, and it's a miracle, it's the work of God. There might not be a set of laws that humans can figure out to describe why the universe works the way it does. So, he went into Darwinism too. He said, strong/smart survive, and he said that maybe our own creations are going to destroy us or dumb us down. And that may certainly be the case. If you look around right now, people are constantly on their phones, finding new technologies to make their lives easier. We're getting lazier as a species, and the dumber you are, you're not going to die. Especially here in America, you can be dumb. You can be dumb as a box of rocks, and you're not going to die out. You're still going to make babies, pop out some dumb kids. It was an interesting theory. Yeah, that may have been true in the past. Darwinism may have explained some things about the human race in the past. The strong survive, the weak don't. But not anymore. The dumb, they have technology now. They don't have to worry. So, Darwinism doesn't really explain modern life. Technology has made us so much dumber, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion, and there's no consequence to it anymore. Not saying Darwinism is right. If you don't know much about Darwinism, look into Darwinism. Look at the original title of his book before they changed down the title. They took the ending title. If I can remember what it was, it was like something about evolution and the advanced races, or it was all about like eugenics and genetics and race. He was a pretty racist dude. He believed in superiority. A lot of the Nazis' work came from his original thoughts. We're not going to go into that. So, as I went along further in the book, we learned some more different theories. I learned more about Hawking himself. He helped prove the Big Bang in his early research by reversing the collapse of a dying star. So when a star dies, it will collapse into a black hole, and that's a singularity, a point of, I think, infinite density. And so if you watch, when it collapses, so a star gets too big, and then it implodes on itself, and gravity just crushes it. The opposite of that implosion would be an explosion, right? But instead of infinite density, the density spreading out. Again, think of that balloon, right? So, it's expanding. So it began at one point and expands. So he helped prove that. And the Catholic Church actually agreed with the Big Bang. They thought it was evidence of God. Is evidence of God. I will say that religion and astronomy have contradicted multiple times throughout the past. Even as far as the Catholic Church having people arrested for having different opinions and beliefs that they thought contradicted the Bible. Many of them turned out to be true. They also didn't contradict the Bible. It just contradicted their thought at the time, their biblical thought, and so they had people arrested. Shows how far we've come as a society, that 150, 200 years ago, people were arrested for just believing something, for science. And we're kind of getting to a point right now where science is becoming very controlled, I'll say, by politics. Kind of like the politics of the Catholic Church now. It's kind of going in an opposite direction. Again, I won't get into that. Maybe later videos we'll talk more about that kind of stuff. But you chilling, Starfire? Starfire's chilling. Alright. So he has since, though, changed his mind and is against the Big Bang. He actually believes the universe has always existed and will always exist. And I will explain why he believes that in a little bit. So then, the book talks a lot about quantum mechanics. And I'll be honest, quantum mechanics was the hardest stuff for me to learn while reading this book. Quantum mechanics was difficult. He didn't do an absolute great job explaining it. I'm sure it's better than some other explanations. I'm sure he dumbed it down for me and I still couldn't understand it. But I had to watch some videos on it to kind of grasp some of the concepts. They were not always easy, but they were interesting. Yeah, talks a lot about small particles, the theory of general relativity. Oh, thank you, Starfire. And yeah, then he goes into like black holes. All matter becomes trapped in the black hole, very dense, like I talked about a minute ago. Um, Time is actually different in the black hole, and particles cannot escape because nothing that we know of can go faster than the speed of light. Particles can't move faster than the speed of light, so they are trapped within the black hole. And time actually moves different because it's in a singularity. And this is part of like one of the concepts I couldn't completely grasp. But once you're in that black hole, time just moves different. It changes. There's some equation or something that proves this. But yeah, in a black hole, time moves different. So time will change. It's an interesting concept. It's strange. Some of this stuff is really strange. Just wait till we get to the wormholes. I'll do a wormhole thing right now. So wormholes, they believe that with one black hole, you can bend the concept of space and time and travel to another point in the universe. Or maybe even different universes. There's theories about how there's different universes out there, and ours is only one of many. This is where it gets really wacky, and then you get into string theory, and it gets extremely strange, where they believe that everything, like the universe, is full of strings, it's attached by strings. Strange stuff. You gonna bite me, Starfire? Don't bite me again. I'm really disappointed she bit me, guys. She hasn't bit me in 3 weeks. She's been doing so good. Then I changed her cage on her, and she started getting aggressive again. You need to start getting nice. I love you. Oh, I don't want to risk it. No, we can do it. We can do it. Come on. Good girl. I'm a little freaked out now. It doesn't hurt, but draws a little bit of blood and shocks you. So, I'm just going to talk about the tie-in movie to this. So there's a movie called The Brief History of Time that's supposed to be like a tie-in to the book. I do recommend reading the book. I don't recommend watching that movie. That movie was boring, unless you're a diehard Stephen Hawking fan. I think I said Stephen King, or I don't know. I meant Stephen Hawking. Stephen King's a horror movie, or horror writer that I like a lot. But no, the Stephen Hawking A Brief History of Time movie was not that great. It's an old movie, or a documentary. I don't recommend watching that documentary. It doesn't add a lot to the book. It just kind of touches on some concepts. You do learn a little bit more about Stephen Hawking himself. The dude had a very rough life with his disease. I forget what kind of disease it was, but it pretty much crippled him. He couldn't walk. He can't talk anymore. He has to use a robot to talk. Every time I hear that robot talking for him, I'm a little weirded out. It's kind of strange. But yeah, he had to use a robot to talk. He was told originally when he was diagnosed with that disease that he'd have 2 years to live. But he said that helped him actually find meaning and motivation, and he ended up living a lot longer than those 2 years. And sometimes we just need to lose, or we need to lose, like, your life. Like, you have to be told you're going to die, or you have to have some traumatic experience in order for you to actually start living. And that's him. He was smart, but he wasn't really focused on his schoolwork at that time. And as soon as he found out that he was going to die, he got married. He actually started caring about school and getting a job more, and it changed him. Yeah, see, he became obsessed later with finding the answer that to everything. Again, that single unified theory that I talked about a little bit ago. And he denies God. He believes that the universe has always existed despite what he helped discover that led to science to believing that there was a Big Bang. Sometimes scientists and stuff, they just refuse to believe that there's a God because they don't think that it fits in the science. But from everything I read in this book, the amount of detail that it took into creating the universe, the amount of chance that they say, like if one thing was different, then we would cease to exist. Stars would just the amount. I don't believe in luck that much, guys. I don't believe that you could have something from nothing, and I don't believe that all this stuff that's around us is infinite. I don't believe everything's infinite. I don't think the universe has been here forever. That doesn't make sense. How could the universe be here forever? when we know that it's dying, everything's expanding away, and likely will die, right? So how could it be here forever? I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Genesis, I think, does a lot better job than Stephen, than explaining the beginning of the universe. It's the work of God versus the work of man. But still, this stuff is all really interesting. I like space, so um, so like I said, just was talking about astronomy has been at odds with Christianity, especially the Catholic Church. Like I said earlier, Galileo was persecuted for his findings, and he was actually imprisoned and put in house arrest uh, for what he discovered. And I think that was what did Galileo discover? I think he might have been the one who thought that I don't know. There's people who thought that the planets were moving in circles, and then one of the astronomers figured out they're moving in ovals. The church didn't like that. The church didn't like it when they discovered, I think this might have been Galileo, that the Earth was revolving around the sun, because at the time they thought the sun revolved around the Earth, the stars and the moon all revolved around the Earth. They thought the Earth was the center. I think it was Galileo who helped prove that the Earth actually revolved around the sun. I could be wrong about that. He could have proved something else, but I think that's what he proved. And like I said, this is very truth and anti-Christian, and it's kind of a shame that it happened. It hindered the scientific research at that time, and it also just kind of made Christians out to be just kind of stupid and not willing to learn. Anti-science. It hurt Christianity as a whole. I blame the Catholic Church for this. Good job, Catholics. But yeah, no. I'm Christian, and I'm reading all this stuff. I don't have to necessarily agree with it, but I would never want to silence people who are discovering things or preaching things or believe different things than I do. As anti-Christian, I don't think Jesus would have wanted us to be lock him up because he discovered something or he believes something different. I think he just wants us to try to show them the light. And this stuff didn't even contradict with the Bible. It just contradicted with what their thought of what the world had to be based on the Bible. It didn't contradict the Bible. It contradicted their own minds, and they had them locked up. It's dumb. So I wrote down even right here, the church wasn't happy with ovals instead of circles being planet's path. So I think Galileo might not have been the rotation. I think he was just the ovals. I could be wrong. So then the anthropic, this is another principle that he kind of taught a little bit. The anthropic principle shows that the conditions for humanity are extremely rare. Any different and we wouldn't exist. Like I said a little bit ago, we were created by God. The anthropic principle is the principle that shows how unlikely it is that we exist right now. How one little change in the Big Bang could have made it so we didn't exist. One little change could have prevented the Big Bang from happening. We are very unlikely to exist. And I have no doubt in my mind that God created us because of the fact that we shouldn't exist. Now, the anthropic principle says we exist because we do. If we didn't exist, then we wouldn't be here contemplating why we exist. So we have to believe that if the chances were 1 in a gazillion, then we're just that 1 in a gazillion. I don't buy it. I don't believe something comes from nothing. I don't believe there was an answer in this book, A Brief History of Time. I don't believe this book contains an answer that puts up a stronger story of creation than Genesis. There's nothing in this book that can explain a scientific creation. And new discovery recently with the James Webb telescopes are even putting into question the time frame of the Big Bang, because we believed it was so many billions or millions of years ago, but we've gone back and we've been able to take pictures now, and the early universe looks completely different than what we predicted. So it just shows this is just speculation. A lot of this is just speculation. There's some facts and stuff in there, but it's a lot of theoretical arguments and thoughts. And science is always evolving. We don't really know all what's happening. So what Hawking believes in now is the no boundary principle, that there's no beginning or ending to space-time. And what he believes, and I kind of have, I'll show you my diagram. He believes it's a four-dimensional, let me get it better. A four-dimensional, like this one. Four-dimensional galaxy. So think of Earth as a three-dimensional world. But he believes the actual universe, the galaxies that we're in, are four-dimensional. So it's kind of like the Earth, how you can't fall off the edge, because it's not flat, if you think it's flat. I like conspiracies and everything, but you're way in too deep, guys, come on. There's pictures. So, you can't fall off the edge, and you can go all the way around it. That's how he believes the universe is. There's no edge. You can go all the way around. It would take infinitely long to go all the way around, like, not infinitely, but, because, like I said, that was stupid. He believes it's finite, but it would take an infinity in our mind to go all the way around it because it's so big. But he believes it's finite, and that it's like an Earth, circle, you know? And it's, instead of 3 dimensions, it's 4 dimensions, he believes. It is kind of a confusing concept. I don't quite understand it. It seems irrational, even from a scientific, not godly standpoint. I'm not saying it's impossible, but as we see it expanding, this whole no boundary galaxy that you would have constantly expanding and contracting.